Hey everyone, Jason here, and I'm back with another Nanocoaster video. Today we're going to be doing Top Thrill 2 from Cedar Point. Top Thrill 2 is an Intamin turned Zamperla Stratocoaster. So Top Thrill Dragster was the original Intamin coaster. Had a phenomenal launch, but the ride was so short, it really didn't even feel like a complete ride. It was nothing I would ever have considered to be like a top tier ride at Cedar Point. The launch was incredible, but after that it was over. So I went to Top Thrill 2 with pretty low expectations and expected it to kind of be the same thing. And while I'll admit that the new launch is not as good, it's pretty close. And overall, I feel like the ride is actually a complete ride now and easily contends to be a top 4 ride in the park. So really excited to put this one together. So in the box, we have the base plates, 2 track sheets, really 1 track sheet and 1 support sheet, a double-sided sheet of instructions, and the tip sheet. So the first step with any of these nano coasters is going to be to remove the brown paper or plastic. This is paper from this base plate. To do this, you'll just kind of get your finger underneath one of the edges and peel it away. It does have the full layout etched into the base plate, although this one's missing the switch track, and so we may be able to peel this away in one piece. Typically, the top you're peeling away in multiple pieces, and it may still be that way. Or just get your finger under the corner and then start peeling it away. So there we have our cleaned off base plate. So if you've seen any of my other videos, you know something I like to do is to add an extra logo to the base plate. There is a little logo sign here. It's really tiny. I like to have something a lot larger. And with the infield of this coaster where the queue line sits, there's actually a lot of empty space on the base plate. That's not always the case. So I actually cut out a relatively large Top Thrill 2 logo here that I'm going to apply to the base plate, and then we'll move on to cutting track. So there we have the logo on the base plate. If that's something you want to do, I will have a link to the SVG down below. You can download this logo, use it for anything you want. So the next step is always going to be to cut out each of the track pieces. So to do this, I've used flush edge wire cutters. The tip sheet says to use nail clippers. You can really use either or. I like the flush edge wire cutters as it lets you get relatively close to the edges of these pieces and cut them out with these. To cut this out, you simply go around each of the track pieces, and anywhere that there's these small little itty bitty tabs connecting to the track, you just cut them. Like I said, these flush edge wire cutters just cut through it relatively easily. So I'm going to finish cutting out all these pieces, and then we'll move on to assembly. So now that we've completed cutting everything out, we can move on to assembly. The first step is going to have us using the support structure. This is the one that was on its own base plate, and so this is going to go on the old portion of the tower, not on the spike. And so really this one actually only has 2 tabs at the bottom, and then you have all these side pieces here that need to be folded over. They're scored, so I actually think the easiest way to bend this over is just going to be to kind of put it down against the table, and then you can just kind of fold it evenly until it's kind of making the triangle shape there. Same thing with the other direction. We'll just put it down on the table and fold it over evenly. And these have to meet in the middle, and so you might have to bend them a little bit more afterwards. But we'll just kind of bend these so that they touch. Actually, I'm going to wait till the next step to finish bending them, but that's kind of what that's going to look like. And then we'll drop this down on the tower. Just those 2 tabs down into place, and then bend them over. So at this point the tower's pretty wobbly. The second step is going to have us adding this back support, and that's why I wanted to stop and not fold those all over. So this just has a small tab that's going to go in the end of the base plate. But then at the top it actually has a piece that connects and stabilizes the top of the tower. So once we get that in there, we'll want to come here and make sure that the groove at the top of the tower hooks into the little notch in the bottom of this piece. And then we'll bend over the tab underneath. I'm actually going to bend over the tab, and then we'll make sure it connects. Keep it locked in at the bottom. And then we can just come up here at the top and then make sure that this notch goes in there. And so it kind of holds together like that. Once we have that, we can just come on this back side and just fold in each of these supports so that they touch the back. So as you do this, it actually wants to keep detaching. We may wait and do these back supports later in the process. So that's where we're going to be right now after step 2. Step 3 is going to add a piece of track that's going to stabilize it. But there's our first 2 steps completed. So step 3 is going to be our top hat here. So this is going to go up over the tower, and then these bottoms have to twist in. And so we're just going to kind of twist them naturally here. And I'm going to just twist them and line them up with these slots on the base plate. And then fold under the tabs, fold over the tabs underneath. And once we have that in place, now we're going to come back up on top here and make sure that the notch in the bottom of the top hat hooks into the notch on the support structure. And so really there's 3 small connections right here. I'll probably put a photo in the video right here to kind of show you how they all connect. But that is going to complete the top hat. So step 4 is going to have us doing the launch track here. So there's 2 straight pieces of track with a little curve up the end that's going to go up into the top hat. There's a short one and a long one. The longer one's going to be on the brake run side. So the shorter one is the one we're going to do, and it's going to be on the side that's closest to me. Literally no bending. Just drop this down into the 2 slots and bend over the tabs. And that's going to complete step number 4. So step 5 is going to be the piece that's the brake run and then a curve back into the station. So this is just the longer straight piece here. So for this one, we will attach it basically the same way, except back here right for the station, this one does curve back. So this one I'm just going to kind of bend backwards, lining up the tabs. And then we'll bend over the tabs underneath. And because I just did this by hand, I'm going to come down here to the end, fix our curve, make sure it's nice and even, exactly how we want it. So this coaster actually has a switch track, which is not shown here. So basically you switch out of the station onto the main launch track before launching up the top hat, backwards up the spike, and then back up over the top hat. And so basically with the way this is set up is the brake run's going to end inside of the station, and then the other track just runs parallel to it. So you see everything except for the switch track. But that is going to complete step number 5. So step number 6 is going to be our second support. This is the support that goes back on the spike behind it. And just like the other one, we're going to just use the table to kind of bend this in. Once again, it's scored, and so we basically this one you have to bend into a triangle. So we'll just kind of use the table there to create the triangle shape. And then on this one side, there's a piece that folds in as well. We'll fold that in, make sure it connects. And then we can basically there's two slots here on the end of the base plate that the spike hooks into. Just make sure those line up and drop it down into place. And then bend over the tabs. And we have a completed support for our spike. Step number 7 is going to be the last piece of track. Once again, no bending, it's just the spike track. One really long tab. This is going to drop down into place, connecting the track to the support we just did. Drop it down through the base plate, and fold over the tab. So that's going to complete the track layout of Top Thrill 2. Probably the easiest nano coaster ever, even with the supports and some of the stuff you have to do on that. Just really simple, really nice to have an easy one after the last 2 I've done from Kennywood. But this one, you just want to make sure the supports and stuff all line up nice, but that's going to complete the track layout for Top Thrill 2. So step 8 is going to have us doing the last 2 pieces. First we have the station building, which is always these little house buildings. We'll just kind of fold this into a house shape. And this only goes one place. It goes right over the end of the brake run here. So we'll drop this down through those 2 tabs and then fold over the tabs underneath. And then there's one empty slot left on the base plate, so that's got to be for the sign. So we'll put the sign there, fold over the tab underneath, and fold it backwards. And that's going to complete the Top Thrill 2 kit as you see it from Cedar Point. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know something I like to add is an adhesive felt bottom to the Nano coasters. As is, they have these loose tabs on the bottom. They catch on things, they scratch the surface. And so to do this, I have this adhesive felt I got from Amazon. And this is one I actually already got 2 out of, but there is a narrow slot on the bottom of this that's going to be just big enough to squeeze Top Thrill 2 out of as well. So I'm basically just going to come on here, put the base plate there, and then trace around it. And then once it's all traced, we'll grab a pair of scissors here, and we'll just cut about 1/8 of an inch inside. The felt doesn't have to cover the complete bottom, just most of it. And you don't want it hanging over the edge. It just gets a little bit messy if you do that. But having the felt definitely adds a little bit of niceness to the model. So I'm just going to simply cut around inside this about 1/8 of an inch, and then we'll put it on. So now that we have that cut out, I'll simply peel off about 1/3 of this paper backing. I'm going to start on the fatter end. It's mostly just rectangular, but the end where the top hat is a little bit fatter. And then we can just kind of come over the top here and lay down the Nano coaster on it, making sure that it's completely covering the felt. The felt can stretch. In fact, there's a little bit of extra here on this end that I don't want. So before I apply it, I'm going to cut another 1/4 of an inch off there. And then we can just peel away the rest of this paper backing and then just line it up and press down. So like I said, that adds a nice felt bottom. You can kind of move it around on the table now. And that is going to complete Top Thrill 2 from Cedar Point. Once again, this kit is available from the park for $34.99. Also available on the Cedar Fair Online Shop. I'll have a link to that down below, as well as links to all of the extra supplies and stuff I used here in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more Nano coaster cutout videos, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day.